Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's the first time. And today I'm going to be recording a follow-up on my Cyberpunk 2077 video, which I made back in late 2020. And I recorded another one in mid 2021 after a major update. But I have not recorded anything ever since, Cyberpunk-wise. So I re-downloaded it a couple days ago because I can finally run it better than before in many ways. It's still not perfect, but I can now have playable frame rates with ray tracing on max. And by playable I don't mean 60, but almost 60, which is good enough. I mean, it's not like peak playability, but you know, like it's low 50s, which I do render enough for just walking around the city, you know, doing casual, easy tasks around the cities while I'm done with the story anyway, so I'm just kind of focusing on the side missions. First of all, let's get through my settings first before anything. Settings wise, we have, first of all, Quad HD, as you can see. Nvidia low latency is on so that we can have that playability juice, even though we're yielding less than 60 FPS, which is suboptimal, clearly. Graphics wise, we have a DLSS on quality. That's a must for ray tracing with this card. We have contact shadows, everything on high, some things on medium. I'm following the hardware unboxed settings for optimal performance. I just want the frames, honestly. So I sacrificed a couple things, but I did not sacrifice anything regarding ray tracing. We have it on Psycho. We have it all maxed out for the sake of science. It's actually pretty playable. I was messing about with that yesterday, and it's surprisingly good, all things considered. It's playable. I'm going to show you the frame rates right now. As you can see, it is not terrible. Honestly, it is not the worst I've seen. So we're getting 54 while recording. That's pretty impressive, actually, and it does not feel bad thanks to Nvidia Reflex, or whatever you call it. It feels very playable. Like, surprisingly enough, moving around, there's no stuttering. The camera pans around very nicely, even though the frames are far from the ideal 60, which is what one would prefer for Cyberpunk. Honestly, this is tolerable, and I remember like thinking ray tracing was pretty useless back when I had the 2070 because I could not actually run it anywhere near Psycho. I could deal with high ray tracing full HD. It was nice for like the outside, but whenever I walked into a closed environment, because of all the mirrors and stuff, the performance would just drop massively below what one would call reasonable, which made me turn it off eventually. Like less than 10 hours into the game, I ended up getting rid of it altogether. But with it on Psycho and with playable frames, it's quite insane, actually. I mean, look at this. Look at that reflection on the glass. Like, it's almost like a mirror, and it's sharp. It's not just the reflection itself. You can actually read what's being reflected on it, which I could not do with the previous card at all. It was not doable, not with playable frame rates. I mean, even Quad HD with ray tracing off was not a 60 FPS experience whatsoever. It was like a 40 FPS experience without DLSS anyway, but native Quad HD was still far from playable frame rate. Like the best case scenario was like 45, and now I mean it does 60, no problem. Quad HD, obviously, as it's twice as powerful, and it does do a little bit of ray tracing as well. It's still not like what you would call ideal ray tracing performance. I wouldn't say, oh, okay, this is perfect. It's not. It's not perfect, but it's walking a fine line between, you know, that's a nice feature. I want to have it on, but I don't want to compromise on performance, but it does not compromise much on performance. So it's a fair trade-off in a sense. It's like, you know, because back in the day with the 2070 and high ray tracing, I didn't feel like it was a worthy trade-off. Honestly, the performance I was losing was massive. And well, also I should add that I'm still running 60 hertz, so that also factors in. It's very important, because obviously I assume if I had 120 hertz panel or more, I would probably prefer to play with high frame rates to enjoy more of the high frequency juice and all. But as I'm still running 60, it really does not bother me. The only thing that actually bothers me is how hot it generally runs with ray tracing on. It's a good like 2 degrees higher, which is a bit of a problem. But then again, I mean, 78's not that bad, is it? Compared to my 2070 would go like all the way to 81, 82, so that's not really terrible. And for sustained gameplay, it's holding up pretty nicely at that temperature. If I take the side panel off, that goes down to like a very, very acceptable 73. Doesn't get past that, which seems to be what it tries to hit from factory. Like, it's the factory default apparently. Like, it does. I've seen many benchmarks where it sits at that temperature. It's too much of a coincidence, I think. Like, maybe that's what they wanted to hit, like what the cooler system was designed to sit at while still boosting. As you can see, we are not throttling still. We're 78 degrees, which is relatively warm obviously, but it's still boosting a good 100 something. I think the stock is like 1710 megahertz, so it's still delivering a core clock far above what is promised. So that's pretty nice in a way. So temperatures are sitting nice and steady there, all things considered. VRAM's hitting low 90s though, which is a bit concerning. I might, once warranty is over, I might open it and copper mod it to lower the VRAM temperatures, but then again, it can operate up to 110, so it's not the end of the universe anyway. But back to Cyberpunk, which is the original point anyway. So after all, it's the Cyberpunk gameplay, isn't it? It entirely changed the game for me. I mean, that break was very important, because this game is meant to be played on ultra or close to it. It changes everything, how you perceive the world, the game world. I mean, I've mentioned it before during that first benchmark video, maybe the first or the second one from December 2020, where I mentioned how amazingly dense the game world was in terms of like how it just felt like an actual city. The density is perfect. There's a lot of clutter, there's a lot of buildings, they are not spaced out just like you would expect in real life. There's a lot of density, populational density as well, which we're also running maxed out, so max population density and stuff, and it feels very natural. But at the same time it does feel supernatural, it still suffers from that problem which I also mentioned before, which is the NPCs not being fully aware of your presence, which I got used to. At first it was a little bit weird, because then again I had just finished Red Dead Redemption then, a couple days before actually playing Cyberpunk, so maybe I had my standards set too high, because Red Dead Redemption is the GOAT. Like, you cannot even debate it's the GOAT. And I was expecting that kind of NPC behavior, that kind of interaction. You know, they are aware of you. They comment on your clothing. They comment on your guns. They comment on whether you're dirty or not. They will notice that. They will make comments on that, which to me was very fascinating. And I would expect Cyberpunk to kind of do the same thing, you know, because after all, it was said to be the game changer of the game changers, the fantastic, the best game ever made, and whatever. It didn't turn out to be. It didn't turn out to be, but it's also not a bad game. I've been unfair with Cyberpunk in many ways. Like I said, I still feel it's kind of short story-wise. The story mode could be longer, but it has so many side missions going on. It has so much to see and explore, which gives the game a lot of, which is something I wish Red Dead Redemption had, actually. Like, you can explore every nook and cranny of the city, and you're gonna find people, enemies to kill. You're gonna find cool side missions. So there's a lot of value still on just exploring the city and just going out and adventuring, and you're gonna find cool stuff around, which Red Dead Redemption has to an extent, but it's pretty limited on that regard. So it doesn't really offer that much extra gameplay value. But I feel like Cyberpunk, if you were to actually do everything the map has to offer, it could take hundreds of hours, hands down. So even though the main storyline just feels short, you still got so much to explore outside of that main storyline. So all the side missions, all the things you could potentially explore. The city's massive, like I said. It's probably the biggest city I've ever seen, and the densest city, because then again, map size is nothing if it's not fully utilized in a sense, and they do utilize it very well. There's a lot of density, there's a lot of action going on. And I can really say I appreciate the kind of work that has been done here. I just feel like CDPR could have been a little bit more honest about the game before making all the promises. That's what killed Cyberpunk, because it's not a bad game. It's just that the way they sold it to the world was a little bit scuffed. They promised a lot, and what they delivered, even though, well, it's visibly very, very nice, I cannot deny that. I mean, look at that. It is pretty. It is very pretty. But a game is not just about visuals. It's not just about the environment, which they've clearly nailed it, but it has more to it. And like I said, the NPC factor to me was a heavy it really detracted from the experience. The fact that they don't care at all. I could be wearing I could be dressed up as a clown and they would not care. But now, if you do that in real life and you go outside dressed as a clown, you can be pretty sure a person is going to make a remark on it. They are going to notice it. Maybe they even going to snap their phone and take a picture, because why not, right? It's not every day that you see a person dressed as a clown, which is not an actual clown, obviously. This game doesn't have that. It doesn't. They don't have any kind of reactions to. I mean, one could argue that, okay, it's the future, people are used to it, maybe a clown outfit or whatever kind of bizarre outfit you could come up with, maybe it would not faze them as they are quite used to it. I mean, it's 2077, for God's sake, maybe they're very used to it. It's just that, yeah, another day in Night City. Sure, one could argue. But still, you pull out a gun, they don't care. I mean, has America really gotten that used to the fact that, you know, you could just casually pull a gun out? You know, I mean, maybe they kind of have a point in a sense. Like, okay, they have a gun problem now in 2023, so maybe in 2077 the gun problem has kind of became it's kind of evolved into the norm, and people are just kind of used to it. Oh yeah, just another freako with a gun. It's okay. It's normal. It's how it is now. It's how we live life. We're pretty much used to it at this point. It doesn't faze them anymore. It could be, you know, maybe they got a point. Maybe it's maybe they're criticizing the American society indirectly in a very smart way by making the AI not seem very phased out by guns. Obviously, if you shoot the gun, you're gonna be very stressed out, obviously. But the point is, in real life, you don't have to fire the gun in order to get people scared. If you just walk out with a gun, especially a big one like a sniper rifle, they're gonna notice it, obviously. They're gonna freak out. They're gonna call the cops.
When I find you, you are in serious shit.
They don't do that here at all, which one could say is a little bit disappointing, but it's whatever at the end of the day. Like I said, I got used to it. It took me a little bit. The expectation bar was very high back then because I had just come out of Red Dead Redemption, so I was expecting that kind of behavior. I didn't get it, but as things stand though, even though you lose that factor, you gain the fact that it's in fact a massive city. I've never seen anything quite like it, and it's very well built. Like, it has all its neighborhoods, all its specific zones. So you have the posh areas, you have the poor areas, you have everything just laid out so nicely, so believably. Like, I could actually imagine this city in real life, and it's convincing enough. Like, honestly, I could totally see that. You know, the way they depict it is very, very nice, very detailed, and I cannot say accurate because we're not in 2077, but it's decent enough. But it just falls short. Like, they could have done so much more. I think that's more of the point here. It's not what they done, but what they could have done. You know, like, it could have been so much better. It could have been one of the best games ever made. They have the map. Like, the map is already one of the best maps out there. You cannot even... It's just a fact. It's a fantastic map. But you just don't have enough connection with the city. You don't have the thing that, you know, I don't know, you just don't feel like you're part of it in a way. You don't feel like you're part of Night City. And it could be so much different. It could be so much better. But it's also not bad. You know, it's just like I said, CDPR just kind of promised way too much. So what people had in mind and what they got was not really, you know, it did not satisfy them at first. But, you know, now we're like 2 years in. We're 2 years in now. And the expectations obviously have changed, as Cyberpunk has been a thing for a long time now. The shock is gone, you know. It is whatever. The pain is already gone. The pain of waiting so many years and getting something, one could argue, underwhelming, because it was underwhelming at first. But it is what we got. You know, sometimes you just gotta face it. You know, you know that meme that people say, like, let's, Mom, I want to get something. Now we have that at home, and it's a knockoff. It's something kind of worse than that. But it's there, you know, it's what we have. It's what we have at home. Like, Mom, I want a fantastic, mind-boggling, game-changer RPG with nice graphics and a very interesting world that you can actually interact with and kind of feel like you're part of it and all. It is not what we got. It is not, and it's completely fine, because at the end of the day, it's what we got at home, and there's nothing quite like home. You know, nothing feels quite like home, and even though it is not what we wanted, it is still our home. It's still ours, and we get used to it. We learn to appreciate it, because there's no other way around it. Like, you just gotta face it. Sometimes what you got at home is what you got, and you just gotta make do with that. You know, it's not like you could magically change it anyway. You just gotta deal with it. Take the L, like they say. And it, honestly, it's not in... Oh my god, look at this. This is so pretty. The reflections. It just looks so cool. No, sorry, I'm not taking this call because I don't want to spoil. Oh, it's just a job. But yeah, it's like I'm playing this game again with ray tracing on is like discovering a new world. I really recommend it. If you have upgraded from 2020 to now, I recommend going through the game again and looking at it with new eyes, because this game is something else visually. There are many things that could be said about the game itself, but visually it's very impressive. And thanks to the Nvidia reflex thing, the low FPSs, they don't bother me, honestly. It's completely playable. I would be lying if I said otherwise. God bless Nvidia reflex, because look at that, we using 18.2 milliseconds. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You know, I can totally see myself playing this. I wouldn't play through the story again, honestly. If anything, I might complete all the side missions, but I don't think I got it in me anymore to just kind of play 40 hours over again. And because the story is okay, but it's nothing special. It's nothing worth reliving. That's why I say, like, it's the perfect game world, but the not so perfect the not so perfect game overall in many ways. But it is what we have at home, and it's, you know, you just gotta take it and move on and enjoy the experience. I mean, it's a very nice photography simulator. Now you can just kind of walk around the city and take street photos, which look amazing thanks to all the technology and the obvious graphical advancements the game has always had. But, you know, back in the day it was a little yikes to experience with the 20 series, because they were just not powerful enough. Even the 30 series are still not like quite up there in ways, but it's better now than it was before, which is something important to mention and to remember. Look at that. Oh my god, this is so... Obviously, I mean, it's still relying on the LSS, and 4 series can actually run this game at playable frame rates up. Like, I wouldn't say playable because this is playable, but I mean acceptable frame rates, because for PCMR, anything under 60 is a sin. Apparently, you cannot play under 60. That's a crime. That's a federal crime. But yeah, the 40 series, thanks to the frame generation, you can actually get like 4K on 20 hertz, which is insane considering what this is. But I'm pretty happy with what I'm using right now, all things considered. Like, if you look at any vehicle and you just look at the reflection, it's so realistic. It's crazy. Like, I've never seen anything quite like it. It's an experience. Is it an experience worth the performance drop? I'm not sure, honestly. Like I said, I'm not sure if I would play the game again with ray tracing on and that 50 FPS. But now that I've already finished it, and I don't really have anything else to do, just for walking around the map, just for experiencing the world, I feel like it's fine. Like, honestly, it's completely fine. For a couple, you could even like engage in some shootouts and stuff just fine. It gives it a whole new. It's something else with ray tracing on it. So I can say I used to think it was BS, but now that I can actually see it with my own eyes rather than YouTube, because back in the day that was the only way I could experience ray tracing on Psycho. I was watching other people playing it because my card could never. Now that I can do it myself, wow, yes, it is an experience that you gotta experience, but just for the sake of, you know, seeing the world like that. I didn't actually play the whole game like this. Play the game with ray tracing on medium or even turned off, and then once you finish the game, oh, that was scary. And then yes, turn it on, and not only for the sake, not only just for performance. I mean, look at that. Not just for performance, but also for the factor that you're gonna notice the difference, and it's like you're playing a new game. If you never played Cyberpunk before, play the story mode, ray tracing off now, and then eventually after you finish, turn it on, and it feels like you're entering a brave new world. It's insane. How much can it actually change the game? It's amazing with ray tracing off, but when you turn ray tracing on, it becomes wow. Oh, is that Cobain of the future? Oh, look at that. You can actually read the size and the reflections. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it. Never. Never, never, never. I would be lying if I said I did. That would be straight up BS. But yeah. This is pretty much what I have to say, I guess, about Cyberpunk, about my... reconsidering touching it, because I said, like, I was being patient with how it was turning out, and I said I would not touch it again for a good long period. And look at me, I'm playing Cyberpunk now again, even though I said I wouldn't. And I have not found a major issue. I have not found floating enemies. I have not found floating objects, people spawning in front of me randomly. That's not happening anymore. Which, well, that's, I mean, I'm glad it does not, because otherwise that would be a huge red flag. They fixed that. So they did what they could with what they got in terms of the game is still underwhelming, but at the very least it's not a broken mess anymore, because before it was underwhelming and broken. Now it's just underwhelming. Now it's just a broken promise, but not a broken game per se. It functions as it should, so we finally got what we paid for, and that's amazing. It's really great. Oh, the puddle. Oh, baby. The reflections.
Spare a veteran some change?
Nah. Oh.
Here. All yours.
Well, that's so good and you. God bless.
You would be surprised if you saw what I did yesterday. But yeah, let's roll with that. Let's roll with me being a good person. Right? What the eye doesn't see, the heart cannot feel. So, yeah, let's keep him thinking that way. Anyways, keep walking through the city. But yeah, I'm yet to see a better, denser environment. I hope Grand Theft Auto 6 delivers that kind of density, with better NPC interaction, obviously, and more things to do, and better vehicle physics. But I hope the density is about the same. It's insanely dense. It feels like an actual city, which is a problem with lots of open world games. The city's just too tiny. It doesn't convince you. That's a big... Because even though it has all the skyscrapers and stuff, it just doesn't have that big city vibe going on. You know, it does not sell you the idea that you're actually living in a big environment. It doesn't have that. The hustle and bustle is just not enough. It's very limited, and that hinders the immersion. But in the case of Cyberpunk, I would say it's even far too dense. Like the amount of NPCs, given the size of the city, the theoretical size of the city, feels a lot like too much at times, but it's better that way. Feeling denser than it could actually be is better than it not being dense at all. And the variety, like you don't see similar NPCs. Like the variety is pretty massive for visuals and clothing. That's nice, because that's the problem with like Grand Theft Auto. You see a lot of NPCs that look alike, and you don't have that happening here, which also helps a lot. So the world itself, oh, never mind, look at that. Unplayable! Look at that! Unplayable, I'm disappointing. Forget about it. Forget about all the things I've said. The game's still broken. I'm JK, I mean, it happens. So this one is not clipping, perfect. Well, yeah, the point that I'm trying to get at is that it was well worth the wait. More so, not the wait, but it was well worth staying away from it for such a long time, because now it is definitely a more polished experience. And I finally feel like I could play this. I could actually get behind all the minor issues and actually finish all the side missions that I have to finish, which are many. I've hardly done any, so like I still got like a couple 100 hours plus ahead of me, probably. And hopefully it won't feel like a chore like it did before. May the graphics aid that experience. May the graphics lead the way and make me feel like I'm part of the city, even though the NPCs don't care for me enough. They don't notice anything. But you know, oh no, look at that. Oh no. Oh dear. Oh, it hasn't loaded. Okay, that's not the game's fault. Before me clarify, I'm running this off an external hard drive, 5400 RPM. It's not the game's fault. This time, it's not Cyberpunk's fault. It's just loading in the assets. It's all good. It's not on the game. Not this time around. Totally on me. But yeah, I feel like that was a pretty substantial gameplay, long enough. We've shown a lot of the city, we've walked around, we've looked at the figures, temperatures and all that, and I think with that it's time just say goodbye to point, because we've kind of figured out, which is whether it's worth revisiting. And I would say so, yeah, surely, especially if you upgraded between that 2020 patch and now, because the game just feels a lot different with ray tracing, which was something so fancy and nice at the beginning, but you could just look at it and couldn't actually use it because no computer could actually tank it, and now it's possible. So I'd say, yeah, I feel like it's time to revisit the universe of Cyberpunk and just walk around and enjoy what ray tracing has to offer, because it's still one of the most impressive ray tracing implementations out there. It is not the best ray tracing implementation, but it's one of the implementations that makes sense from what I heard. It's not working for me though, but The Witcher 3, the new one, remaster, has the best ray tracing altogether. I'm not sure how much of it's true because I have not experienced it myself, but I heard it's insane. Insane. I ought to try it out, but I gotta update Windows first because it is. If I turn ray tracing on, for some reason the screen goes all like the colors go all wonky and dark. It just does not work as it should, which is a shame. But then again, it is what it is. At the end of the day, you know, it is what it is. But from what I got here, from the games I can actually run without my visuals looking wonky. I would say Cyberpunk is definitely the best ray tracing implementation so far from the stuff I have. It's just brilliant. It's better than Control. It's probably because obviously, I mean, it's an open world and you can see it everywhere. All the cars, all the windows, all the facades, they all shine. Even the floor shines. You can see how different objects. It's like PBR on steroids in some ways. And it's a game changer. You can see what's all about and how advanced it is and take it all in and wow, welcome to the future. Ray tracing 2077, it's double future. But also, is it? Is still I don't feel like we're quite there yet. Even the 4080, the 4090, I still feel like ray tracing still punishes the machine far too much. Or maybe there will be a day when we're going to be able to run ray tracing with a minor impact, like actually minor 20%, 10% hit, give or take. Maybe in the future we can dream of that. And I mean, I can see it happening. Maybe on the 5080, the 5090 perhaps, maybe the 6080, the 6080. That's gonna be a nice one. I'm gonna save money for that one, 6090, because that's a nice name in it. But yeah, I feel like ray tracing is still a bit of a distant dream. Playable, fully playable ray tracing, because I mean it will be quite a while until having on or off is basically the same thing like it was with PhysX back in the day. Hairworks used to be terrible in performance. Nowadays it's not so much. The cards just kind of deal with it, you know. And one day I hope it's gonna be the same for ray tracing. We're gonna have it on and it's gonna be like it's gonna be like on and off, same thing. Maybe 5 FPS give or take. But for now it just kind of cuts the frame rate in half. And well, thankfully with modern hardware we can still play. Even with the frame rate cut in half, we still use, I mean, not the case in 3080 obviously, but with the 4080 and so on, we still use above 60. Even with the compromise of having ray tracing on, which completely changes it. Makes it fairly more, unplayable. Look at that texture glitch. Unplayable. CDPR, come on, bro. Yeah, back to the original point. I still feel like the penalty is massive for what it is. But now it's not a thing that you could just kind of turn on and watch a slideshow. Now you can actually play that way, and it's quite enjoyable. Quite enjoyable. If only the NPCs were a little bit more interesting in a way, more interactable and stuff, that would be cool. But it's not in the world, I guess. Oh, this texture's glitching. Let's go now for sure. I was gonna say goodbye and I completely forgot I was supposed to say goodbye. So, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for putting up with me and my ramble at 6 AM, maybe 7 now. I lost track of the time. I tend to ramble a lot when I'm tired. That's especially why I chose this time of the day to record. because that's when the brain just kind of goes wild. It runs fairly more descriptive and so on. It's very nice. It's my true gamer time to comment on gaming and stuff. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you all so much. Feedback's much appreciated. The comment section's right up below. Don't be shy. I'm more than welcome. I mean, you're more than welcome to comment and you know, say whatever you want. If you feel like this kind of video is pointless, or if you feel like it was nice, if you have any suggestions like what do you want to see next, or what don't you want to see me do again. Could be the case, like, oh please, no more Cyberpunk gameplays, do not talk about Cyberpunk anymore, do not record gameplays this way. I don't know. Any sort of feedback's much appreciated. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.